What is going on, guys? Welcome to the masterclass. Today, we're going to be diving into how to finally escape or overcome the skinny fat phase. This is something that we have been preparing for you guys. It is one of the most common issues that arises for a lot of people. They don't fully understand how to fix this problem. They don't know what are the action steps or what do they need to focus on in order to make sure that they can really start developing the physique that they're truly chasing. And what we want to do here is we want to make sure that you guys get the help, you get the support you need to be able to overcome this phase and really become more confident and happy with the results that you're getting. First and foremost, who is this training for? Just make sure that you are in the right place. If you're not in the right place and you're like, hey, you know what, this isn't for me, this is your opportunity where you can go ahead and take off. But I will say, if you're someone that is still struggling with nutrition, training, whatever it might be, this is something that's still going to be able to help you out. But this is going to be for busy men and women who are stuck not knowing if they should be prioritizing losing body fat or building muscle. It's made for busy men and women that are looking to achieve their dream body without giving up food freedom, right? We want to make sure that we can still enjoy the foods we love. For those people who have been consistently trying quick fixes and want to finally find a solution, that works for them, right? People who are sick and tired of putting in hours of work with no results to show from it and want structure that will guarantee their success this time around. Lastly, those who are just sick and tired of their own shit. They put so many excuses on why they can't do something. They've consistently been going, over and over, losing weight, regaining it, and just, haven't quite really found something that works and it's just tired of it. If that's you, this is going to be for you, right? So before we dive into all that, I want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on me so you guys can, a little bit more of, who I am, where I'm coming from, as well as, some of the challenges that I had to overcome to be in the position that I am today. And, what really qualifies me to be able to help you guys overcome this phase, right? So, when I first started my fitness journey, it was back probably the end of my middle school years. I was a very chubby kid in, elementary, middle school. I was pretty chubby as well. I was just a big gamer, didn't really move, didn't exercise, didn't do anything. And, I got to the point where, I was sick and tired of my own shit. I wanted to change. I wasn't doing anything about it. I was overweight. I was always wearing baggy clothes and was never really confident in myself. And the picture that you can actually see here is when I lost a significant amount of weight. I did cross country. This was my start to my fitness. I just started running. My brother was, a very, very good runner. He was always pretty fit. And I was like, well, that's what I should probably do, right? He's doing it. It's working for him. Maybe I should go do it. And I did that and I lost the weight. And you can see here, I was getting down there, but even as I was losing the weight, I wasn't very happy. I wasn't confident with the way I was looking, and I needed something different, right? Some of the challenges that I had to overcome within this journey was, learning macronutrients, learning how to track calories and how to do all this stuff. Because when I first started, I was eating healthy, and I put quotations on it because, I was eating chicken and rice, salmon. I was eating fruits, veggies. I would very rarely go out and eat fast food, right? However, I was never actually developing a physique, right? I had to learn what macros were, how they were helping me move closer to my goal, and, inching my way every day closer towards it. And for me, that's what I would need. That's one of the biggest things I needed. Not only that, it ultimately gave me food freedom. It gave me the ability to be able to go out with my friends, with my family, enjoy myself, and just know that I was still making forward progress with what I was doing. For a long period of my life, and you guys can probably relate to this, I consistently yo-yo dieted. I went from, quick fix to quick fix to quick fix. I did keto, I tried carnivore, I tried low carb. I tried a bunch of different solutions that, were just marketed as the fix, right? But I never actually looked for the long term, right? And when we're looking to achieve the physique that we want, we have to understand that the long route is the short route. And what I mean by this is I spent, 2 to 3 years doing quick fixes. What if I would have focused on doing it right from the beginning? Where would I have been now? Right? What damage could I have done in those 2 to 3 years in terms of developing my physique and, again, becoming more confident and being happy with the way it looked, right? little bit of a typo here, but endless hours of cardio and never actually looking like I was fit, right? You can see it right here. I didn't look like I was fit. I had, like a little skinny fat look. I had, the belly there. I had, very lean arms, but I had no muscle on my frame, right? So I would do these, 45-minute sessions of cardio every single day, but never actually like the way I wanted to. Binging is something that I don't really, talk about too much, and I probably should, but for about a year and a half of my life, I dealt with binging, and this came as a result of yo-yo dieting and not actually, understanding how nutrition played a role in, how I felt, what I would eat, and the choices I was making. So, this was a very rough period of my life. And when I say binging, I really want to clear that up because people hear binging and they think overeating, right? And overeating and binging is completely different, right? So overeating is you maybe ate like a plate more than you should and you're a little full, right? Binging is completely different. So when I was binging, I was eating anywhere from like 3,000 to 4,000 calories in a sitting, all coming from very calorie dense food, cookies, ice cream, peanut butter, milk, like all that crazy shit that you try and stay away for most of the time, and then you just cave, and then you eat everything in sight. This was something that impacted my health mentally because I was trying to help people with their nutrition. I was trying to help people get in amazing shape, but yeah, I couldn't control what I was eating on a day to day. I had very low self-control when I was binging. It was just like I almost like lost it and just ate all this food, right? And it gave me a different perspective when it comes to coaching, how to approach it, and how to make things a lot easier for those individuals coming in to work with us, right? This is the goal we ultimately have for you guys after this masterclass, right? We want you to break free from all the quick fixes that continue to prove that they don't work, right? If you've done them a few times and you're trying it again, it isn't going to work. It didn't work the first few times. Let's change on to something new, right? Learning strategies to lose weight and never struggle again without giving up sugars, wine, and anything in between. Again, food freedom, being able to enjoy the foods we love while still moving the needle forward, right? Obtaining structure and clear objectives that will allow you to move closer to your dream body. What is actually working, right? Because when we talk about being consistent, we hear it all the time. You need to be more consistent. You need to be more consistent. In all reality, you are a very consistent individual, right? You're probably not being consistent at the right things. You're probably not making sure you're getting protein every single day, going on walks, and making sure you're getting your training sessions. You're probably very consistent at binging Netflix, eating junk food, and missing out on your sleep, right? So now we got to switch that consistency towards the right things. Totally fixing your fucked up relationship with food. Here's the one thing I will say, and something that I always bring up. You're not in a relationship with food. Food is just food, right? But we do want to make sure that we don't have a negative picture towards certain types of food, because at the end of the day, food is just food. There is no good, there is no bad, right? What really makes a difference here is the volume, the amount of food we're consuming, right? You can eat donuts, you can eat cake, you can eat tacos, you can eat all this stuff that you're avoiding. Well, the problem that really arises here is how much are we eating? How consistently are we doing it? And are we over consuming on calories? So we want to make sure that you understand the bigger picture. That way, again, you don't feel guilty going out, eating this food, and, just kind of moving on from there, right? Biggest thing that we want you guys to take away: learning how to keep your results forever and have a clear game plan for the rest of your life so you can crush all seasons of life, even the stressful and chaotic ones. This is a lifestyle. You've probably heard this all the time, right? There's no such thing as a quick fix. You're not going to be able to do this for a few months and then keep the physique, right? You have to continuously do what built that physique over and over. And most people stop when life gets busy. They have a busy season in life. Work is hectic. They're having stress, from their significant other, whatever it might be, and they just kind of stop, right? So we want to make sure that even during these seasons you can execute, because again, if we make this something that you can continue to do for the rest of your life, you're going to be more successful with it. If you're doing something for 3 months, you stop, and then you start it back up 3 months later, and you continue that cycle, you're never actually going to get the results that you want. We want to make sure that you can be consistent, and we build something that's very practical so you can do it for a long period of time, right? What I'm going to share with you is the 4-step system that will guarantee you how to overcome the skinny fat phase. And here are the 4 pillars that you need to understand, right? Pillar number one is going to be understanding delayed gratification mindset. This is the crucial one. Pillar number two, what is the next step? What is your best option? Pillar number three, bulletproof muscle building training program. So muscle will change your life. The more muscle you have on your frame, the healthier you will be, the better you can perform in the gym, and you are just less prone to getting all of these health conditions, right? Pillar number four is going to be understanding biofeedback and accountability. We need to show you what you need to know or what you need to assess to be able to adjust your training or adjust your nutrition to allow you to keep building the physique that you want, right? The one thing I do want to really highlight here is it's not you that failed. And you might be just kind of looking at this and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm the one that fell off my diet, right? This isn't on you. Here's the thing. The fitness industry has failed you, and there's a variety of ways of how it's failed you, right? First and foremost, nonstop advertisement of quick fixes, right? And again, there is no quick fixes. Get away from the quick fix. It's never going to get you anywhere. If you get results quick, you're probably going to lose it very quick too. You want to make sure it's sustainable. You want to make sure it's a long-term goal here. There's a lot of fitness myths out there. You can't eat past a certain time. Carbs are bad. Insulin is the only reason you can't lose weight, or the only way to lose weight is by eating less food. That's not actually true, right? A big one too, and this is something I've ran across a lot, is horrible coaching experiences. So again, I've had calls with people that have worked with coaches that just don't teach them what they need to know, don't equip them to be independent, and ultimately just kind of leave a sour taste in their mouth of what coaching is all about. We want to change that for you guys. There's amazing coaches out there, and you don't have to hire us. You can hire somebody else, but just make sure that they're credible, make sure that they're really in this space because they want to help people, not just because they want to just make money off of it, right? That's going to be the most crucial aspect here. Big thing, not actually receiving the education on what you're doing. This is by far the most detrimental when it comes down to becoming independent within your fitness journey. If you never understand what you're doing and why you're actually doing it, how do you know when to move forward? How do you know what adjustments to make, right? The goal for any coach out there should be to make you independent. We want you to get to the end of the program and be like, hey, dude, you guys were amazing. I can walk away with everything you've taught me. I have the habits, I have the education, I have all the skills that are required to continue seeing results long after we're gone. If someone isn't doing that for you, they're not educating you, it's probably time to look for something else, because ultimately that is the goal. You're probably coming in here and you're like, all right, I've seen a little bit about you guys, but I don't really know what you guys do. I haven't really seen your transformations. And, this is something that people always ask us, like, let me see your work, right? So I want to include a little bit of transformations on here for you too that, I think did absolutely amazing. There's hundreds more, but I want to highlight these two because these individuals are hardworking and they absolutely put in everything they needed to be able to see the results that they got, right? First and foremost is Artie. Artie worked with me for, I believe, about a year or maybe a little bit over a year. I think it was like a year and 2 months, somewhere around there. I think it was a little bit longer than a year, right? During this time, he was able to lose 56 pounds while building more muscle, right? When he first came to me, he was eating around 1,500 to 1,600 calories. By the end of it, he was eating 2,600 calories. So he was eating 1,000 calories more and dropped close to 60 pounds. That's massive. I want you to really take that in. He lost weight and developed his physique by eating more food, right? I really want to get that across because, again, a lot of people think you just have to eat less in order to lose body fat. That's not actually true. The more you eat, the better you're able to perform, the more muscle you're going to build, and the more energy you're going to spend on a day-to-day basis. The biggest thing with Artie too, and I love this because he left. He was like, hey, dude, I learned everything I didn't learn. And I was like, dope, dude, cool. You get to go on your own? He's like, yeah. And he has continued to see progress long after I'm gone, which is the best thing. The second transformation here is Luke Dubé. And the reason why I want to show this guy off is because here's what happens when you commit yourself to a program and you go full in and you don't question anything, right? You're just like, hey, this is the game plan. Let's run it, right? I'm not saying you can't question it. You can always question it. Your coach, if he's a good coach, will always be able to answer and give you really good explanations of what you're doing. And that's exactly what we do here, right? Luke came into the program. He had about 2 years of lifting experience already. However, the biggest thing that he needed was accountability and just actually sticking to a game plan for long enough. Because, when he came to me, he was, growing. He was going into a bulking season for a few months, and then the abs would be gone, and he'd go into cutting phase, and then he'd do the same thing over and over again. His physique never actually changed. He worked with me for about 2 years and 4 months. That's a long fucking time. And during this time, we were on a growing phase for, I believe, a year and 6 months, like during this whole time span, right? And it's a long time. And you guys are probably like, fuck, that's a really long time. But this is what happens when you actually commit yourself to just growing muscle, right? On the left, he was 140. On the right, he's 159. You can see a lot more muscle density. You can see that he looks leaner. His abs are just a lot fuller. Arms are a lot fuller. Legs are bigger. Back is bigger, right? He gained 19 pounds and got leaner. Way more muscle definition. That's what we want to do for you guys, right? So these are two of some of the amazing transformations we've had. The one thing I do want to cover before anything else as well is just the vicious cycle that you might be stuck in. And this is a very common cycle. This is something that every single person gets stuck in, myself included, the other coaches that work with us included. It's part of it. You need to overcome this because this is just what has been, a consistent habit of ours, right? And the way this starts is we find a diet, we start the diet, we follow it for 2 or 3 months, we lose a significant amount of weight, we fall off, and then we repeat, right? What's happening here is we cut or we slash calories too much, right? So if you're doing keto, you remove carbohydrates, right? You drop a significant amount of calories. So obviously you're going to lose weight. But since you slash calories very fast, what ends up happening is hunger levels come up significantly. Temptations are just showing up. We tend to cave into those temptations, and then we just let loose and we just do it all over again. So we need to make sure we break the cycle before anything else. This is one thing we really, really have to work on. And here's the thing. I got good news and I got bad news for you guys. So here's the bad news, right? This is where you're currently at right now. Unhappy, unconfident. I want to change, right? Here's the first route. We go online, we find a popular diet that we see everybody doing, and we start it, right? We learn as much as we can off TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. However, you never actually really understand what you're doing. You're just doing it, right? You get some results, however, end up falling off, regaining all the weight they lost along the way, and then you repeat. This is the cycle that we just talked about right now. Here's the good news, right? You're here on this masterclass, and here's what we're going to provide the solution, right? So second route is us. You decide to seek out help. You decide to seek out help from an outside source to nail everything down this time around, right? You save years off your journey, avoiding unrealistic approaches, and you also save money on just bullshit supplements that you don't need to buy. You find a sustainable approach, you build the habits and education on what you're doing, and then you just continue to see progress and you look fucking amazing naked, right? That's the goal we all have. And here's how we get it, right? So again, now you're in a position where you can take action on the thing that you already know isn't going to work, or you can take action on the thing that you know is going to work. You have 2 routes. So it's yours to pick. And now we dive into the meat and potatoes of the mastermind in itself, which is going to be diving into the 4 pillars itself, right? So like we mentioned before, delayed gratification mindset is one of the most crucial things that you need to have. Reason why is because there is no quick fixes. Everything that comes fast, you will probably lose just as fast, right? So you have to understand that you have to build the habits and you have to build the education and skills along the way, which will take time. But over this time, your wins are going to compound, right? And as wins compound, you actually start getting more and more results. If you're always looking for the quick fix, the fast and easy route, you're going to get some results, but you're never actually going to get to where you need to go. You have to understand that you have to do the boring work for a long period of time to actually see the results that you're chasing. And this is where the delayed gratification mindset comes in. If you don't see something happening day by day or week by week, but you understand that you're checking off the boxes and you're being consistent at the right things, know that that is inevitable. And I guarantee that if you are someone that, has a blueprint and you're following it day in, day out, and these are the right things that you have to do, and you just give it enough time, that gratification is going to show up, and it's going to be even better than what you were doing before, because now you know that you've been consistent for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. And that to you feels way better, because as humans, we want to achieve massive things. We don't want to achieve the easy things. They don't make us feel good. We want to achieve the massive milestones for ourselves. And by having that massive milestone is what's going to allow you to continue moving forward. One of the biggest things I always tell our clients is we have to break down what we're doing into a macro and micro scale. So a macro scale is, hey, I want to lose 80 pounds. Okay, how do we do that? Now we dive into the micro. All right, what are the action steps we have to do on a day-by-day basis that are going to allow us to lose weight, right? If we're trying to lose 80 pounds, say we're shooting for a pound or 2 pounds a week, cool. What are the actions we're taking every single week that are going to allow us to lose the 1 pound or 2 pounds that are eventually going to get us to 80 pounds, right? What does that look like? All right, I'm going to get anywhere from 8 to 10,000 steps a day. Beautiful. I'm going to make sure I'm getting my protein intake, no matter what that is. And I'm going to make sure I'm staying within my calories, right? I'm going to make sure I'm training 3 to 4 times a week and making sure that I'm getting enough recovery, my sleep's on point, and my stress levels are mitigated, right? If you do this day in, day out, I guarantee you will see success just happening, right? And that's where you focus on the micro, right? You allow the macro to happen by itself because you're so focused on the micro level. You're so focused on the day-by-day actions and making sure that you're taking these actions to the best of your ability. That right there is ultimately the secret to it all. So delayed gratification mindset is something that you just need to have. The next step, what is your best option, right? And I kind of catfished you guys on this a little bit, right? But skinny fat's confusing, right? To say the least, because again, the more cardio you do, the less food you eat, the worse the problem just seems to get. And here's the thing, you're ultimately trying to solve the wrong problem. Skinny fat doesn't actually come from having too much body fat. It actually comes from not having enough muscle on your body to have the toned, looked, or defined physique that you're looking for. The way we want to look at this is there's 3 layers, right? So you're going to have your bone, then you're going to have the muscle, and then you're going to have the body fat. So if you don't have enough of that second layer, which is your muscle, to pop up, and you can see it through the body fat that you have, nothing's ever going to happen. You're never going to look toned. You're never going to look shredded. You're never going to, have this defined physique, right? You need to focus on building more muscle. This is what's ultimately going to help you solve the skinny fat phase, right? And the good thing here is as you start building more muscle, what ends up happening is everything just kind of evens out. Your arms get bigger, your back gets bigger, your chest gets bigger. And all of a sudden, your stomach just doesn't really pop out as much as it used to, right? This is what we have to do in order to make sure that we can overcome the skinny fat phase, making sure that, we're recovering, making sure that we're training, making sure that we're building muscle on a week by week basis. And how do we do that, right? So this is the solution for you guys. Instead of doing hours of cardio, what we need to start focusing on here is going to be resistance training. Resistance training is what's going to allow you guys to build muscle. And for resistance training, you want to make sure that you're training really hard, right? You want to make sure that you're consistent with it. Instead of eating less food, we need to be eating more food. You have to understand food is fuel, right? So carbs, fats, protein, they all serve a role within the body. We're talking about protein that's going to help you repair, rebuild tissue, build new tissue, as well as keeping your satiety high, meaning that you're going to be less prone to cravings, you're going to be less hungry, right? It's also going to help you perform in the gym. These are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the energy's preferred energy source. So if we're not having any carbohydrates, we're probably not going to get really good training sessions. Our pump's going to be a little bit lower. We're not going to be able to train as hard on our sessions, and then we're not going to be able to recover. Fats, they're really good for hormone regulation as well as just energy. So if we're not including this stuff, we're missing out on allowing our body to perform optimally and recover the best it possibly can. So we need to make sure that we're eating more food. Instead of trying to buy a ton of supplements or all this stuff that you see online, what you want to focus on is going to be your recovery and your performance. And again, this is coming from food, this is coming from sleep and minimizing stress, right? If you can go into the gym and you can perform to the best of your ability, and then you can recover from it, come back into it, a day or two later, and push the most out of those workouts, then you're going to be in a really good place. So these are the things that you need to focus on in order to really help build muscle. When it comes down to the training program, here's the thing, right? There is no secret best training program out there. The one thing I want you to really take away from your training sessions is going to be actually training to near failure. And you're going to hear this all the time, but in order to build muscle, what we need to do is we need to provide the body, or we need to provide the specific muscle, more stimulus than it has gotten previously, right? So if you've already benched a dumbbell bench press, right, and you're doing 80s for anywhere from 6 to 10 reps, and then you go down to 50s and you're doing 6 to 10 reps, just know that's not really doing anything for you. Your muscles are a lot stronger than that. They need a different kind of stimulus. So again, now you're doing 80 pounds for 10 to 12. That's more reps, right? For the same weight. Now you're bringing more stimulus to it. Now it has a reason to actually build more muscle. So we need to make sure that we're training as hard as we can in the gym. And this doesn't mean you have to take every single training set to failure. You always want to shoot for at least 2 reps shy of failure. So if you're shooting within 2 reps shy of failure or 3 reps shy of failure, now you're providing stimulus for that muscle to grow, right? So with training and making sure that you're getting, that fatigue, here's what I highly recommend. And it's something we make every single client do. You want to record your training sessions. The reason why you want to record your training sessions is because this is what's going to allow you to gauge your range of motion as well as your training intensity. Range of motion is going to be crucial for building muscle. You want to make sure that you're taking that muscle through its full range, because if you're taking it through the full range, you're activating all the muscle fibers versus doing half the muscle fibers. Think of a squat going to parallel versus below parallel. If you squat to parallel, your quad isn't lengthened fully. If you squat all the way down past parallel, now you're lengthening the quad. The quad's a little bit more, bringing more stimulus to it. So that's one, right? And then also the training intensity. Here's what I want you to look at with training intensity, and it's going to be tempo. So what we mean by tempo is how quickly the reps are moving. Normally you want to have a 3 second eccentric coming down, right? That's the loading portion. You're coming down into the movement, right? You want to make sure that's slow, right? When we're coming back up, this is when you start gauging the intensity, right? If you're repping these out and they all come out in the same time, or you all the same speed, it's just letting you know that your muscle isn't actually fatigued yet. You need to keep going, right? Once you start slowing down, once they become grinders, once you're barely able to get that weight up without breaking form, that's how you know that you're actually training hard enough to provide stimulus to the muscle, right? So making sure you're getting these training videos and you're checking that tempo, that's what's really going to allow you to come back into your next training session, or even in the same training session. If you watch that video, you're going to be like, all right, I could have pushed 2-3 more reps, right? And you want to dig for those. That's a big reason why I recommend watching them as you're filming them, because you're able to implement right away versus waiting for the next week and be like, oh, okay, I could have gotten more, right? So those are the 2 things that you really need to focus on within any training program out there. And I can guarantee you will be able to build a lot of muscle. Big thing here, because most of you guys are probably beginners coming into this, right? You're in an amazing place. And the reason why I say you're in an amazing place is because for somebody that is a newbie, someone that hasn't trained with a specific training program, has, everything fine-tuned for them, what ends up happening is you are able to build a significant amount of muscle. Beginners can build anywhere from 8 to 12 pounds of muscle within a year. For somebody like me that's been doing this for a few years, I need to fine tune everything. I need to make sure my sleep's on point. I need to make sure my training is on point. I need to make sure supplementation is on point. And I can probably gain maybe like 2 to 3 pounds of muscle over that year. Beginners can gain over pretty much like 4 times more than what an experienced lifter could get, right? Which is the reason why when you're stepping into the gym and you're new, you're going to see progress regardless. But what if you can get more out of it? What if you can fine tune it to a point where you're really seeing a maximal amount of results for it, right? Really capitalize on this if you're somebody that's new, because I'm telling you right now, if you can do this right in the beginning of the 2 years, dude, you can see some massive, massive changes in your physique. And lastly, biofeedback. What is it? What are the things we're paying attention to? And I'm going to go one by one on these for you guys so you guys can get a little bit more in depth with this, right? So with stress, big thing with stress that a lot of people don't understand is stress is always going to go to one place. That's the body. Doesn't matter if it's internal stress, women on their period, or you're having digestive issues. That's stress, right? Stress from your significant other, stress from training too hard, stress from work, stress from traffic, whatever it might be. Stress is all going to be placed in the same place, which is your body. So what we've got to do here is we have to assess where the stress is coming from and limit it from certain areas. So say, for example, somebody that is working with us, they're like, hey, dude, you know what? Like these next few months within my career, I'm going to be working like 12, 14-hour shifts. I'm not going to have a lot of time to train. I'm not going to have a lot of time to have everything all fine-tuned. What we want to do here, if they're in a cut, is actually bring them out of the cut, right? Because if they're in a cut and, they're, having a low amount of calories, that's going to cause diet fatigue, right? That's stress being placed on the body. So we need to mitigate it in a certain manner, whether that's, having more refeeds or having, diet breaks, whatever it might be. What we're doing here is reducing stress in one area of life to make sure that there's just not too much stress coming in, because ultimately, if we have too much stress, what ends up happening is adherence drops, right? When you're consistently stressed, when you're consistently overwhelmed, the little things that you do on a day-by-day basis can seem very hard, very annoying, very tedious, that you just kind of say, fuck it, I don't want to do it. And that's why we want to mitigate it. We want to make sure adherence is just high at all times. Sleep is a massive one. So with sleep, you need to make sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. And the reason why you want to do this is because this is going to impact your recovery and it's going to impact your energy levels throughout the day. If you can't recover and you don't feel good going to the gym, probably not going to do well. You've probably got into the gym with, a 4-hour sleep day. You probably feel like garbage. You notice your numbers go down. You notice performance is just nowhere near what it could be. If you're doing that consistently, you're not going to get much out of the gym. You can have the best training. You can have the best nutrition out there, but if the recovery portion isn't there, you're going to make very, very little progress, right? Hunger is a really big one because, as we're bringing food up, we want to pay attention to this, or as we're bringing food down, we also want to pay attention to this, right? So if someone is on a reverse or in a growing phase, this is something we pay attention to before we bump up calories. We need to make sure hunger is above a 3, right? Anywhere from like a 4 to 7. This is going to allow us to know like, hey, dude, they're responding really well. We can get more food in there. And we want to make sure that, weight isn't going too high or we're adding too much body fat. So some of these will go together, like hunger, weight, and progress, right? We work on them together because we need to make sure that they're all in alignment with oneself, right? So if someone's hunger is a 4, but we notice that, they're gaining a ton of body fat and they're going up 3 pounds every single week, we're not going to up calories. We're probably going to bring them down a little bit because, they're actually gaining a ton of weight and they're not looking better. So that lets us know calories are too high. And then we might just have to change their food options, right? Instead of actually giving them more food, hey, let's change your food options. Let's get more fruits and veggies in there. Let's make sure we're getting more fiber. Let's bring your protein up, whatever it might be. So hunger is going to be a massive thing. When someone's on a cut, we want to make sure that, hunger isn't significantly high, because again, when hunger is high, what ends up happening is we have more cravings. We have, these temptations around us, and we're more likely to cave to one because we only have so much willpower in the day, right? So hunger is massive when it comes down to, increasing or lowering calories. So you do want to pay attention to that. Recovery, this is going to be massive when it comes down to just how you are showing up on a day-to-day basis, as well as just your training, right? So if you're noticing that, you're coming into your training sessions, you're always sore, you're not able to perform, that's letting you know that we might have too much volume, or we're actually training way too hard and we need to back off a little bit. We need to make sure that when we're coming into our training sessions, we can attack them at 100%. We don't want to overdo it to the point where it's actually lingering and it's going into your next training sessions, because again, you're going to lose out on some of that muscle that you could build if you are going way too hard in training sessions and not actually recovering from it. Big one here, very, very underrated, digestion. So with digestion, we want to make sure that the food options we're having on a day-by-day basis is something that actually fits really well with us. What I mean by this is if you're eating something that makes you bloated, makes you feel super full, and you're just not vibing with it, remove it, right? And the reason why is because if it's causing inflammation or if it's not causing you to feel good, guess what? You're not getting a lot out of it. So we want to make sure that we can really utilize the food that we are eating to perform as well as recover. So digestion is a massive one. Weight, like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that weight isn't moving too fast or it isn't dropping too fast. If you're dropping 3 to 4 pounds or you're going up 3 to 4 pounds, that lets you either have calories too low or you have calories too high. You want to make sure that as you're gaining weight, it's a steady progress, right? Anywhere from 0.5 to 2 pounds, depending on the individual, right? Most people are going to be on the lower end of like 0.5 to 1 pound. Same thing with your cutting, right? You want to make sure you're losing 0.5 to 1 pound. Sometimes people can lose a little bit more, but you want to make it consistent, right? And lastly, progress photos. The reason why I want to have progress photos on here is because you see yourself every damn day. You're not going to notice the little changes that are happening on an everyday basis. However, if you're able to look back 2-3 months, you're going to see some changes. If you're able to look back 6 months or a year from when you first started, you can see the massive difference that you've already done up to this point. And that helps just produce more energy for you to keep pushing forward. Because if we aren't seeing any change, if we aren't seeing any progress, we can just get beat up and ultimately just kind of, not want to do it. So we want to make sure that you guys have, some solid proof that you are moving forward within your journey, right? So this is what progress photos do. They allow us to see how everything's moving and where we're going from this. So with that being said, guys, that wraps up the training here. If you guys have more questions, or want more in-depth answers, feel free to reach out. We want to make more of these for you guys. We want to make sure that you guys have everything there to be able to be successful within your journey. If you have not joined the Facebook group, make sure you join the Facebook group, because this is where we, dive into more stuff. I talked about training programs, right? If you have no idea what to do with your training program, dude, the Facebook group, I go into how to build training programs step by step. I will show you how to build a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day. And I'm going to break down everything that's going through my mind and what are the little check boxes that I want to check off every single time as I'm building a program. Like, hey, am I having this for the client? Am I missing this? How do I include it? What do I do there? Right. So if you truly want an in-depth, make sure you go to the Facebook group. You're going to get a lot out of it. And that's just a ton of free game that you are missing out on if you have not joined yet. But with that being said, guys, stoked for more of these. Again, if you guys want us to dive into something else more in depth, feel free to let us know. We're more than happy to dive into it for you guys. Other than that, we'll catch you guys on the next one.